The Discovery Commander Vexara floated in the observation deck of the Celestial Mandate, her crystalline form refracting the distant starlight into rainbow patterns across the walls. The massive warship had traveled for 3 standard cycles to reach this forgotten corner of the galaxy, where stars burned dim and space itself seemed to whisper warnings to those who ventured too far from civilization's warm embrace. The Galactic Council had sent their finest diplomatic vessel to investigate reports that troubled even the most seasoned explorers. Strange energy signatures, impossible readings, and ships that entered this region only to return with their crews speaking in hushed tones about things that should not exist. The bridge crew, a mixture of 12 different species, worked in practiced harmony as they approached the source of the anomalies. Navigator Thrym adjusted his forearms across the control panels, his scaled skin shifting colors with concentration. The Insectoid Communications Officer, BZ-9, transmitted standard greeting protocols on all known frequencies while the ship's shields hummed at maximum power. They had learned long ago that first contact situations could turn deadly in seconds, especially this far from Council space where the rules of civilized interaction held less weight than the promise of valuable technology or resources. "Commander, we're receiving a response," BZ-9 announced, her compound eyes focusing on multiple data streams simultaneously. "The language appears to be unusual. Our translation matrix is struggling to decode it properly." "Wait, they're switching to Council standard. How do they know our language?" Before Vexara could respond, the viewscreen flickered to life, revealing a figure that made the entire bridge crew pause in confusion. The being looked almost laughably simple compared to the diverse array of evolved species in the Galactic Council, bipedal, with only 2 arms, 2 eyes, and skin that seemed tragically vulnerable without scales, chitin, or energy shields. The creature's face bore an expression that their translation systems identified as a smile, though something about it seemed to carry more weight than mere friendliness. "Greetings, Celestial Mandate. I am Administrator Sarah Chen of Terminus Station. We've been expecting you for quite some time. Please maintain your current distance of 50,000 kilometers, for your own safety, of course. We wouldn't want any unfortunate misunderstandings during our first official meeting with the Galactic Council." Vexara's form solidified slightly, a sign of surprise among her species. "You know of the Council? How is this possible? Our records show no contact with your species, and this region has been marked as uninhabited for over 1,000 cycles." Sarah's smile widened slightly. "Oh, we've been here much longer than that, Commander. Humanity has called this edge of the galaxy home for nearly 300 of your cycles. We chose isolation deliberately, you see. The galaxy is vast and full of wonders, but also dangers that most species cannot even comprehend. We learned long ago that sometimes the best way to survive is to be forgotten." The tactical officer, a 6-legged Creemac warrior, clicked his mandibles in skepticism. One small station and a primitive species hiding in the darkness. Why should the Council concern itself with such insignificance? Primitive? Sarah's voice carried an odd tone that made several crew members unconsciously step back from their stations. "Commander Vexara, would you kindly run a deep scan of the space surrounding our station? Use your best sensors. I think you'll find the results educational." Vexara gestured to her science officer, who began the scan. Within moments, his feathers stood on end, a display of extreme alarm among his avian species. "Commander, this cannot be accurate. I'm detecting over 10,000 objects in perfect stealth positions around us. They're not ships, at least not any design in our databases. They appear to be some form of living technology. The energy readings are unlike anything in Council records." Sarah nodded as if she had expected this reaction. "Those are our gardeners, Commander. Think of them as antibodies in the bloodstream of space. They've been watching you since you entered our territory 3 days ago. Every movement, every scan, every whispered conversation has been cataloged and analyzed. We know your ship's specifications better than your own engineers. We know that your primary plasma cannons have a 0.7-second charge delay that could be exploited in combat. We know that Navigator Thrym has a family waiting for him on Thessia Prime, 2 mates and 6 hatchlings. We know that you, Commander Vexara, have doubts about this mission that you haven't shared with your superiors." The bridge fell into stunned silence. The implications of such comprehensive surveillance were staggering. No technology in the Council's vast archives could achieve such detail at such distances without being detected. Vexara felt her form fluctuate with uncertainty. a emotion she rarely experienced in her 5 decades of service. "What do you want?" she asked, her harmonious voice carrying undertones of caution. "Want? We want nothing from you, Commander. Humanity learned long ago that wanting things from others leads to conflict, and conflict leads to the kind of choices that leave entire civilizations as nothing but ash drifting in the cosmic wind. We're quite content here at the edge, tending our gardens, pursuing our research, and occasionally welcoming the brave or foolish souls who venture this far from home." Thrym's scales shifted to a pattern indicating curiosity. Research? What could a species with such limited biological capabilities possibly research that the combined knowledge of 100 council species hasn't already discovered? Sarah's expression shifted slightly, becoming somehow both sadder and more dangerous. "Navigator Thrym, has your council ever wondered why this edge of the galaxy is so empty? Why the stars here burn differently? Why space itself seems hostile to life? Your scientists assume it's natural, a quirk of cosmic formation. But you're wrong. This emptiness is artificial, created by civilizations that came before, civilizations that made mistakes we've spent centuries learning not to repeat." She gestured to something off-screen, and suddenly the view screen split to show images that defied comprehension, structures the size of moons that pulsed with organic life, ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, weapons that didn't destroy matter but rather convinced it to never have existed in the first place. And through it all, humans working alongside technologies that should have been impossible for such a seemingly basic species to understand, let alone master. You see, Commander, humanity didn't develop in isolation by choice alone. We were placed here, or rather, we placed ourselves here as guardians. The technologies you're seeing aren't ours originally. They're remnants of the Ash Wars, conflicts that happened before your oldest species had developed language. Weapons and tools so dangerous that using them incorrectly could unravel the fabric of reality itself. Humanity found them, studied them, and made a decision that no other species had made before. Instead of using them to conquer or destroy, we chose to become their keepers, ensuring they never again threatened the galaxy. Visit Nine's wings buzzed nervously. "You're saying humans are protecting us? From what?" "From yourselves, mostly," Sarah replied with what seemed like genuine regret. "Every species that develops far enough eventually faces the same choice. Do you use ultimate power responsibly, or do you let it consume you? The Council is approaching that threshold now. Your technology is advancing rapidly, perhaps too rapidly. Within another 50 cycles, you'll discover the same principles that led to the creation of the Ash Protocol. The question is, will you be wise enough to step back from that precipice?" Commander Vexara processed this information through her crystalline matrix, thousands of possibilities cascading through her consciousness. "The Ash Protocol. You mentioned this before. What is it exactly?" Sarah stood up from her chair, and for the first time the crew could see her fully. She wore a simple uniform devoid of decoration except for a single symbol, a phoenix rising from ashes. "The Ash Protocol is humanity's ultimate safeguard, Commander. If the galaxy ever faces a threat that could destroy all life, if another Ash War begins, we have the means to end it. Completely. Permanently. The protocol doesn't destroy civilizations. It reduces them to their component atoms and scatters them across space and time. From ash they came, to ash they return. It's not a weapon we ever want to use, but we will if the alternative is the end of everything." The threat was delivered so calmly, so matter-of-factly, that it took several seconds for the bridge crew to fully comprehend its magnitude. A single species, isolated at the galaxy's edge, claiming to have the power to essentially reset galactic civilization if they deemed it necessary. It should have been laughable, the delusions of a primitive culture trying to appear important. But the evidence before them, the impossible technologies, the comprehensive surveillance, the casual mention of wars that predated recorded history, all of it painted a very different picture. "You're afraid of us," Vexara stated, her voice carrying harmonics of realization. "That's why you hide. You're afraid of what you might have to do if we discover what you're guarding." Sarah's smile returned, but it was tinged with sadness. "Not afraid, Commander, burdened. Every human child learns about the responsibility we carry. We are the gardeners at the edge of the galaxy, tending to seeds of destruction that must never be allowed to bloom. We watch, we wait, and we hope that we never have to act. But yes, in a way we do fear. We fear the day when we might have to look another species in the eye and explain why their civilization must end for the good of all others." The Reckoning, the council chamber on Thessia Prime erupted in chaos as Commander Vexara finished her report. Representatives from 97 species argued in a cacophony of languages, the translation system struggling to keep pace with the heated exchanges. The revelation of humanity's existence and their claims had shattered the comfortable superiority the Council had enjoyed for millennia. Some called for immediate military action, others for diplomatic engagement, and still others insisted the entire report must be fabrication. High Chancellor Zorath, an ancient being whose species had founded the Council 3,000 cycles ago, raised his ceremonial staff and silence fell across the chamber. His voice, weathered by centuries of political maneuvering, carried absolute authority. The question before us is not whether these humans exist or whether their claims are true. Commander Vexara's evidence is comprehensive and verified by our best analysts. The question is, what do we do about them? The war faction, led by General Krex of the Valdoran Empire, stood to address the chamber. His massive frame, evolved for combat on high-gravity worlds, made him an imposing figure even among the diverse gathering. The answer is obvious, Chancellor. These humans possess technology that could ensure Council dominance for millennia. We must take it. They are few, isolated, and regardless of their claims, they cannot stand against the combined might of our fleets. You would risk war with an unknown power? Asked Ambassador Telling, her ethereal form shimmering with concern. What if their claims about the Ash Protocol are true? General Krex's four eyes narrowed with disdain. Fear-mongering from a species trying to appear more powerful than they are. No single world could possess such capabilities. I propose we send a fleet immediately to secure their technology. If they resist, we neutralize them. The benefits far outweigh the risks. The debate raged for hours, but eventually the war faction's arguments won out. Fear of being left behind, of another species potentially holding such power over them, drove the Council to a decision that would echo through history. 50 warships, the finest in the Council fleet, were dispatched to the edge of the galaxy with orders to secure human technology by any means necessary. Admiral Septimus commanded the fleet from his flagship, the Dominant Paradigm. As they approached Terminus Station, he transmitted their ultimatum with the confidence of someone who had never lost a battle. Terminus Station, this is Admiral Septimus of the Galactic Council Fleet. You are ordered to surrender all advanced technologies and submit to Council authority. You have 1 hour to comply, or we will take what we need by force. Sarah Chen appeared on the view screen again, and Septimus was struck by how tired she looked. Not afraid, not angry, just profoundly exhausted. Admiral, I'm going to ask you once to reconsider. Turn your fleet around. Return to Council space. Pretend you never found us, please. For the sake of every life on your ships, please turn back. Your threats don't frighten us, human. You have 57 minutes remaining. Sarah closed her eyes for a long moment, and when she opened them, they held a weight that made even the battle-hardened Admiral pause. Very well. You've made your choice. May your gods forgive us for what comes next. The transmission ended. For 56 minutes, nothing happened. The human station floated peacefully in space. No weapons charging, no shields raising, no sign of the thousands of Gardner constructs that had been reported. Admiral Septimus began to believe the humans were simply going to surrender, that their grand claims had been nothing but elaborate bluffs. Then, with exactly 1 minute remaining, space around the Council fleet began to change. It started subtly, stars seeming to shift position slightly, light bending in ways that violated physics. The navigation officers reported that their instruments couldn't determine their location. They were exactly where they should be, but also nowhere at all. Admiral, the science officer's voice cracked with fear. The space around us is being isolated from the rest of the universe. We're being cut off from reality itself. Before Septimus could respond, Sarah's voice echoed through every ship simultaneously, bypassing their communication systems entirely. This is the first stage of the Ash Protocol, Admiral. Your fleet now exists in a pocket dimension of our creation. You are both here and not here, alive and not alive. This is your last chance. Stand down and we will return you to normal space. Continue your aggression, and you will understand why we tried so hard to remain hidden. Admiral Septimus, driven by pride and the certainty of Council superiority, gave the order to fire. Every weapon in the fleet unleashed devastating force toward Terminus Station. Plasma cannons, antimatter torpedoes, gravity weapons that could crush moons, all fired in perfect coordination. The attacks never reached their target. Instead, they simply ceased to exist at the halfway point, not destroyed or deflected, but edited out of reality, as if they had never been fired at all. The energy readings on the ship showed the weapons had fired, but the universe disagreed. Stage 2, Sarah's voice continued, now carrying an infinite sadness. Molecular historical revision. Across the fleet, crew members began to notice something horrifying. Their youngest members were aging rapidly, but not forward, backward. The newest recruits became younger and younger until they simply weren't anymore. Their existence rewinding past their birth until they had never been at all. The ships themselves began to show the same effect, the newest modifications vanishing, recent repairs undoing themselves. "Stop," Admiral Septimus screamed. "We surrender. Call off your weapon." "This isn't a weapon, Admiral," Sarah replied. "This is a mercy. The true Ash Protocol doesn't just destroy, it unmakes. It reaches back through time and removes the very possibility of something having existed. Your fleet, your species, your entire civilization could be made to have never been. All traces of your existence edited from the timeline. But we're not monsters. We're gardeners, remember? We prune only what we must." The effect stopped, leaving the fleet damaged but intact. Half their crew members were gone, not dead, but never having existed in this timeline. The psychological impact on the survivors was devastating. How do you mourn someone who never was? How do you fight an enemy that could make your entire species a forgotten dream? "Return to Council space," Sarah commanded. "Tell them what you've witnessed. Make them understand that humanity's isolation isn't weakness or fear, it's mercy. We hold the power to end everything, to return the galaxy to primordial ash and let evolution start anew. We choose not to use it. Every day, every hour, every moment, we choose to let you all live and grow and make your mistakes. But if you force our hand, if you threaten the stability of reality itself with your ambitions, we will act." The fleet limped back to Council space, their crews broken by what they had experienced. Admiral Septimus's report to the Council was met with disbelief until the medical scans confirmed it. Half the fleet's personnel were missing from reality itself. Their names existed in no records, their families had no memory of them, yet the survivors remembered them clearly. It was a wound in the fabric of existence that proved humanity's terrible claims. High Chancellor Zorath called for an emergency session. This time there was no debate, no posturing. The evidence was undeniable. Humanity possessed power beyond comprehension, power that made the Council's greatest achievements look like children's toys. The question now was not how to take that power, but how to ensure it was never used. A new transmission arrived from Terminus Station, this time showing not just Sarah Chen but a council of 12 humans, each wearing the Phoenix symbol. Sarah spoke for them all. "Galactic Council, we propose a covenant. Humanity will remain at the edge, maintaining our watch, ensuring the weapons of the Ash Wars never escape into the galaxy. In exchange, you will enforce a quarantine of our space. No ship, no probe, no transmission enters our territory without our permission. We will share certain technologies with you, medicines, agricultural improvements, defensive systems, but never the true power we guard. And if the galaxy ever faces a threat that conventional means cannot stop, you may call upon us. We will answer. We will act. And we will bear the burden of whatever must be done." "Why?" Chancellor Zorath asked. "Why would your species accept such isolation, such responsibility?" An elderly human, his hair white with age, answered. "Because someone must. In all the universe, in all the cycles of creation and destruction, someone must stand at the edge and say no further. Someone must tend the garden and keep the weeds from choking out life. We discovered the ashes of civilizations that thought themselves gods. We learned from their mistakes. And we chose to be guardians rather than conquerors, watchers rather than rulers. It's not a burden we sought, but it's one we'll bear. For you, for ourselves, for species yet to evolve who deserve their chance at the stars." The Covenant of the Edge was signed that day, marking a new chapter in galactic history. The Council grew and prospered, advancing within safe boundaries, always aware that at the galaxy's edge humanity stood watch. They were never seen, rarely mentioned, but always present, a reminder that ultimate power came with ultimate responsibility. Years turned to decades, decades to centuries. New species joined the Council. Old ones transcended to higher planes of existence, but the humans remained at their post. Sometimes in the quiet moments between crises, Council members would look toward the edge of their star charts and wonder about those strange, simple beings who had chosen isolation to protect others. They wondered if humanity ever regretted their choice, ever wished to abandon their vigil and join the wider galaxy. But Sarah Chen, now ancient by human standards but still serving as administrator, had answered that question in her final public transmission to the Council. Regret is for those who had better choices and failed to make them. We had no better choice. We found the tools to end everything, and we chose to guard them instead. That's not sacrifice, it's not heroism, it's just what needed to be done. And when the universe no longer needs guardians, when the last weapon of the Ash Wars has been safely destroyed, then perhaps humanity will emerge from the edge. Until then, we remain. We watch, we protect, and we remember why some secrets are better left as ash. The transmission ended with an image that became legend throughout Council space. A lone human figure standing at an observation post, looking out at the infinite darkness beyond the galaxy's edge, holding vigil against threats that most species could never imagine. It was a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength wasn't in conquest or dominance, but in the willingness to stand watch in the darkness so others could live in the light.